What's up, gamers, and welcome to the Shackcast, episode number 27. We're here with special guest Andrew Alliance talking about podcasting, content creation, and his new book, Podcasting What You Should Know. So right here we have Andrew. And Andrew, why don't you say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself for those that might not have already been familiar with you here on the show.
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for the invitation. Do appreciate that. Yeah, I've been gaming for a while since '87, and just had a good time over the years with different consoles and your Nintendo, Sega Genesis, some PlayStation here and there, Sega Saturn. So I kind of went through a route of the consoles, and then a couple of years later, if you want to fast forward, 2009, I launched my podcast, The Show Radio, and that's been going on ever since. I think we're at episode 635, which would be the next one. Um, I think we're at 630 something at this point. Definitely 634 is out now. But yeah, so I've been enjoying that.
Mm-hmm.
And recently I wrote a book. I dropped it on my birthday, which was January 19. As you mentioned, podcasting what you should know, and just excited, man. And there's some other things we'll talk about later, little teasers here and there. But thanks for the invitation, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. So what led you to go from podcasting itself to writing a book about podcasting? I mean, you get to the mountaintop or you're in the castle or whatever it is. Why not raise up the drawbridge and, build your kingdom? Why lower the drawbridge and let other people in and share all the secrets that led you to where you are and whatever success you have?
Yeah, I think it was an interesting thing because as I was thinking about it over the years, podcast, you do a lot of episodes. You mentioned you're at 27, right?
Yeah.
You do a lot of shows, and congrats on that, man. You crossed the threshold whenever podcast is mentioned and someone's starting out. If you cross over seven
hmm
and you get to 10, that's a big deal, right? And I think that there's individuals that are still trying to figure out if they want to start one or not. But I started thinking about like all the artists and individuals that pass away and what they leave behind, right?
hmm
And typically, what happens is let's say they have a couple of albums. Someone listens to the album for like 24 hours to honor the artist, right? That
Yeah.
vibe. And then after that, that's it. They move on, right? They move on with any other stuff. Maybe the birthday of the artist comes back around and then they kind of do the same thing. But there's just something different about when someone writes, right? When someone has a manuscript, like when you think of the books that people still talk about today, especially like your How to Win Friends and Influence People, like
Yeah.
that lives on for generations, right?
Absolutely.
And I
It's the
think and I think
blueprint.
that I wanted, yeah, absolutely. So I think I wanted to focus on something that was going to be evergreen, as evergreen as possible, and at the same time, just share some of the things I've learned in the last 14 years at this point, right? Of just creating content and going to events and what really works and what doesn't. And although mics can be expensive, you don't need an expensive mic to actually do great things with, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
so one of the examples I share in the book is one of my best interviews I've ever done was done with a $20 mic and a $35 audio adapter. So, right place, right time, perhaps. But I think that as much as we love, equipment, and yeah, equipment can get expensive, it doesn't take a lot to sound, really, really good. So, I think a lot of that, some of the thoughts that went on for me, just trying to consider, okay, so if we're going to write this, when are we going to write it? And I think it came at a perfect time because the book was actually supposed to be done last year, right?
hmm
2022. And I was like, okay, I didn't feel like the structure was ready. But at the same time, for those who are highly technical or looking for a super technical guide, it was never designed to be a super technical guide. It was definitely designed to give you some information that's going to keep you going in podcasting or excited to start, right? So if it does that, I believe I achieved what I set out to do. But I do believe it is a guide to be better at what you do, and maybe you'll learn something in there for sure.
Absolutely. And I think some of the chapters where you talked about your physical health and your mental health, as I was reading that, I was like, that is super important. But
Yep,
I was like, I
it is.
know other people might just, be like, all right, I'm
Gloss
gonna skip
over.
this chapter. Yeah, like, come on, this. I don't need to know this. This is boring.
Right.
But like, how important that actually is towards, getting the juices flowing in your brain. The ideas, the conversation topics, stuff like that. You go out for a walk. You grab a cup of coffee. You stay hydrated. You drink water. Stuff
Right.
like that, making sure that you're eating healthy and not having like indigestion during your podcast.
Yeah, it's
Stuff like
important. And
that.
I think even what you're listening to as you're recording, or
Hmm.
what you're doing as you're recording, sometimes people play video games while they're recording, right? So I think it all depends on what you're actually doing to make yourself feel comfortable in the process. It doesn't have to be a bad experience, right? It doesn't have to be labor in so many ways. If you enjoy creating content, whether you're doing YouTube or audio stuff, find a way to do it where you're actually enjoying it. And in the beginning it's tough, right? So I'm speaking from a place of privilege, I guess, or a blessing in a lot of ways, because I'm a Logitech G partner. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I wasn't. I was just a person playing games and trying to get attention from companies, and now I'm a person playing games that have attention of some companies, right? So I think like things change over the years. It's just that you have to be willing to, as they say, stay consistent, but really treat it as if you want people to remember the content forever, right? Whether it's audio or video or even written word, which is what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. So there's no. Would you say that there's no fluff episodes of the podcast over the years?
There's been some fluff episodes of the podcast. Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
guilty of a lot of things, man. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Sure.
yeah, for sure. And I own that because it is in the archives, right? So
Hmm.
I think when I started with Block Talk Radio, and then from Block Talk Radio, we went to Lipson as a host, and they've been great. So when you're recording episodes and you're getting to the tail end of the episode, if you're done, just end it, right? Because what you're doing is you're prolonging the time, and you may be even wasting the time of the individuals listening, and they're not going to be excited to listen to your next episode because they're already being conditioned that you're going to add like filler content. And most people aren't really excited about that.
No.
Unless they're super fans, right? That's different. They'll listen to whatever you say,
Sure.
even if it's fluff content. But outside of that, if they're listening to like 5 to 8 different podcasts a day, and they get to yours and your fluff content 15 minutes before you close the episode, they're not going to be excited about that.
It's very true. Hmm. So, I guess my struggle with podcasting, and not to turn this into like a therapy session, is that I want every episode to have a lot of intention behind it. And if I feel like I don't have anything to talk about that week, or whatever the episode, whatever the scheduling or timing is of the episode, if I don't feel like there's either worthy enough topics or news or something that I feel passionate about that I want to get into, whether it's about gaming or other stuff, then
Mhm.
it ends up being a week where it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm not going to record.
Right. Okay. So the thing with that is like sometimes I'll hold off, like
Hmm.
with Daniela, Miss DJM. Sometimes I'll hold off an episode because we want to talk about something specific. Like even when you look at this week with Hi-Fi Rush, right?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful game. And it plays extremely well. It was definitely a surprise. We kind of held off to record to talk about it, right? So I think like there are times that you're going to have to do that. And I think it really helps with the relationship as well, whether it's holding off to record because you want a piece of content to be, reviewed by both parties. That's always good. And even when someone's not feeling well or they're feeling down, like I'll hold off an episode sometimes 2 weeks to make sure that we're both good, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's her, or whatever. And I think that's pretty important because at the end of the day, the listeners are going to know if we're good or not, right?
That's very true.
And I believe that's critical. So we'll hold off, for a piece of content if there's a conference coming up, or like, okay, so that's coming up in the middle of the week. Then I'll make sure you watch it. I'll make sure I watch it, and then we'll get ready to record, at a later date. And I think that's important because everybody comes back refreshed and they're ready to go. And sometimes even on a recording day, if I don't feel that we're both ready, we'll just catch up with life, but we don't record an episode, right? And I think that if you're building a team and you want the team to be super engaged and all those things, you have to be willing to take those moments to pause and not be so adamant to be on a schedule
Hmm.
without focusing on the well-being of the individuals that are building with you. So I think that's important.
Man, that really speaks to the whole mental and physical health angle that the book, kind of
Absolutely.
adequately gets in there and says, "Hey, you may not think this is important, but I am I'm putting these chapters in here for a reason." And it makes a lot of sense.
For sure,
Um,
man.
so how did you go about finding your co-host? Tell us about Danny.
So Daniela is I mean, she's such an amazing human being, man. Like my thing was I never set out to have a co-host,
Yeah.
right? So but the thing is like when you're recording and you're spending a lot of time like doing episodes and stuff like that, there's going to be individuals that are going to listen to your content and they'll start making comments about it, that kind of vibe. And in the beginning of in the early years of the show radio, I did test out some co-hosting or some guest spot co-hosting kind of vibe. And, it didn't really work like I thought it was going to, right?
Hmm.
So from there, you fast forward maybe like 300 episodes in, Daniela started, commenting on, some of my posts, online and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And you appreciate when people make comments and stuff like that. And then from there, it went from making comments to, being a little bit more vocal about like, things that I'm saying or talking about on the show. And I thought that was dope. So okay, that's cool. Okay. And I think during episode like 300-ish, 300 plus, I did feel like I needed a change, and not only the structure of the show, but where do we go from here, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, so I think it was just a perfect timing. I do believe it was divine timing that we started connecting. She started, making comments on my content. I started supporting her content as well. And then from there, it was like, hey, would you like to come on, as a guest and just talk about, some of the things you have going on? So we did that. And then from there, it became, hey, you just, came back from an event. Do you want to come on and talk about it? Then that happened. And then after a while, it was just like we have something good here.
Yeah.
So around, I think it was 340 for me was a monumental um moment for the show and for me. And if as I think about it, like a lot of the changes that I've had to do as a human being, is because of her, right? Because I had to learn how to work not only as a team, but I had to become a better human being, right? And I'm still striving to do that, right? But I think
Absolutely.
that a lot of that, came from her, and I even dedicated um, a portion, of that. And there's a section in the book you have to do dedications. I have her in there
Yeah.
because I do believe that without her, I wouldn't be who I am today for sure. That is like 100%. So I think that's how it came about. So if I remember the story correctly, I think she was on her way home, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on? How are you?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm good." I said, "Yeah, I got something to ask you." And I was like, "Hey, would you marry me?" Right? Like she
Oh
was like, "What? What do you?"
God.
She was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Hey, I said we got something good. Let's make it happen." So we kind of joked around about it and stuff like that. But yeah, she is a genius and in so many ways, great human being. And yeah, I would be, and I say this often. I would be really upset if she wasn't my co-host. If we didn't work together. So I'm glad that we're able to meet and build.
Yeah, and I think some of the other things that she brings to the show is that she brings a very different perspective. It's not an echo chamber. It's not, oh, Andrew, I agree with everything you said. That's so great.
Yeah, I
She
didn't want that.
brings that dueling attitude. You know, she has her own thoughts, her own opinions, and she's not afraid to, you know, put those forward.
She
And
is not afraid.
no,
She
she's
is not
not. I
afraid.
very clear. She is not
She's
afraid.
not afraid
Every
to put that
time there's
stuff
been a
forward.
disagreement, she puts it forward, and
I love
it
it. I
makes for
love it.
really good conversation. I think that's what makes the show last even longer. Is like you probably could have
Absolutely.
continued doing it on your own forever. You probably could have been fine, but like you said, you wouldn't be the man you are today. You might not have the opportunities that you have today as a result of
Yeah,
having a
the book wouldn't
co-host
have been
like
written
that.
either. Even the book wouldn't have been written either.
There you go.
Not the way it's written, right? You
Yeah,
know, maybe I would have, penned it a different way, but I mean, podcasting for over 300 episodes with somebody, that's a big deal, right?
absolutely.
And a lot of my experiences to write the book, came from her. All right. So she's an inspiration in so many ways, and I don't think she gets enough credit for what she does, not only as a human being for her own content, whether she's streaming or doing different things, but as a co-host, as a host, she can carry the show by herself too. Like I don't have to be on there,
Hmm.
but I just love the team, right? I love her and everything that she brings to the table. So I'm grateful, man.
Absolutely. Incredible. So on that note, you talk a little bit in the book and of course in your bio here about how you struggled to learn English growing up and how
Mhm.
that kind of becomes a root of like how you found your voice and how you were so adamant about podcasting and content creation and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So what happens with that whole situation is growing up, I used to go to school in Haiti. That's when I started my schooling, right?
Mhm.
Born in America, but I started my schooling in Haiti for a while, and then around fifth grade, I came back to America to continue schooling. But it was a struggle because accents and people bullying. That's what we know of it today. But I didn't even realize that that's what was happening. People making fun of you because of the way you sound and things of that nature. And I think that really pushed me to really want to be, the best that I can be when I'm speaking, right, to other human beings, right? So for that particular journey, I just started watching a whole bunch of shows, right?
Mhm.
And later on, I was sharing with some family members this. I didn't realize that I was actually studying, right?
Oh.
The Thundercats and DuckTales and all the shows that we watched back in the day, all the sitcoms, right? Family Matters, Who's the Boss, even like soap operas, Days of Our Lives, Guiding Light, All My Children, General Hospital, right? So for me, all those things are or even movies, right? All those things were grounds to masterclass for me, right? To learn how people communicated. The great actors made it look very real,
Yeah.
and I think I needed that. So I really learned from them, and over the years, I just got better. It became an obsession. Even today, like listening to podcasts and doing different things, or even a conversation like this, it's always like, okay, so thinking about the conversation, nuance of the conversation, the tone of the conversation. I think all those things are extremely important. It became an obsession, right? To be the best that you can be, and I think that individuals who are learning who I am for the first time, they don't necessarily know that story, right? I think they'll know it, once they do the book or listen to your show. But outside of that, it's like, oh, you're polished, you're great, you sound well, and you sound well is not necessarily a compliment for
Yeah.
individuals who are African Americans, right, or people of color or demographics that look like me, right, in
Mhm.
so many ways. And I think that but for me, just to finish that thought, it is a compliment because it's something that I struggle with and I got better at, right? But it's not historically, it's not a compliment, right? So I think that individuals who are trying to understand what the big deal is when it comes to that stuff, just really try to be a little bit more sensitive on how you're approaching individuals and what they've gone through historically, and even that's a tangent for another day. But yeah, so it was a struggle. I do believe that we're at a better place now. I'm able to articulate extremely better. And I'm excited, man. I'm just excited for people to understand that every time that we release an episode is a reminder that I'm no longer there, right? So every episode, right, we're
Mm-hmm.
600 plus episodes in, is a reminder that I'm not where I used to be when it comes to trying to communicate my thoughts to other human beings. And sometimes, you talk to animals too because they understand how you know. So there's that too.
Absolutely. You learn, you grow, you get better and better. And before you know it, you've sort of mastered a new language and you've found your voice and now you say it here in the book too that you're sort of a student of, you know, almost like people, psychology, sociology of
Yeah, I
sort of
love that stuff,
conversating
man.
with people, right? You have a
So
knack
part
for
B,
pulling that.
absolutely. So part B to your question,
Yeah.
finding your voice, right? So finding your voice, it sounds like very, very cheesy and cliche and stuff like that, but you have to be willing to ask individuals like what am I really like, right? So the last 2 years, um, I'm just trying to be more gracious in my approach, right? I'm super logical when it comes to a lot of things.
Mhm.
And you have to give people grace, right? Because I don't know. That's where I'm at. You just have to give people grace. Now, I'm not going to tolerate any disrespect, right?
Right.
But you just have to give people grace, and I think I'm just trying to be better at that. And for me, finding your voice, if you're starting a podcast today, just by way of adding, value, is go to the people who really know you and say, hey, what do you like about me, and what don't you like, and what do you think I should do to improve that? Most individuals will not do that. They will not do that. And the reason that they won't do that is because it's a tough conversation to have,
It is.
right? It's a tough conversation to have. And people are like, well, I want to be a better podcast. I want to be a better content creator. But like, dude, or do that, or everything in between. Nobody likes you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh
Like,
no. You don't want to do
can
the
we,
work. That's the other
yeah,
half.
can we
And you
just be
don't want to
honest
hear the
about that?
hard feedback, right?
Right, right. And it's like what are you going to do about that? Right. And I think that once you figure that part out, it's going to be a little bit easier. And I really did that. I did that with family members. I did that on Facebook. I'm like, hey, what do you like about me and what don't you like? And be honest. This is not the part where you say, oh, you're great, you're kind, and you've been this to me and that. This is not the kind of conversation I want to have. I really want to know, right?
We need the real
And I
feedback.
know real feedback for sure. And I know what my struggles are when it comes to just communicating and just sometimes too logical is not the way, right?
Yeah.
It's not the way because we're human beings, we have emotions, and you just have to be a little bit more sensitive to that stuff. And most individuals won't do that, and then they'll wonder why they're not finding their voice quicker, right? And then the other, I guess, part C of the question is doing the reps, right? You're 27 in,
Yeah.
I'm a few in as well. We did the reps and we're doing the reps, right? And I think that's extremely important because you learn from your last conversation or your last, solo episode, your last, team episode. You learn from that. And you're like, okay, going back to what you were saying earlier, it's like, all right, I don't want to record this week because I don't feel like there's a lot of news. Well, you can probably find two things to talk about this week,
True.
right? It doesn't have to be like 7 bullet points or 12 or whatever. You can find two things, even
Mhm.
if it's a conversation surrounding like Hi-Fi Rush and Goldeneye. Those are two things right there. And then Bethesda Showcase, that's three things. Destiny having some challenges this week, four things, right? So I think that we have things that we can talk about. Is it
Mhm.
exciting for us? And one of the things that we could do to make it exciting is watch the conversation around it and then, give our take on our platforms. So I think that doing the reps is extremely important. Asking family members and those who know you, extremely important.
Yeah, and the thing about talking with friends and family is that anytime I've asked for their feedback, they are always elated to share it. Like they're never like, "Oh no, you wouldn't want to know what I think about your music or about
Hmm.
your content creation or your podcast or whatever it is you do in that room with all the video games and the computers and the lights and
Hmm.
all that stuff." They will be very truthful and honest, and they'll say like, "How are you making money from this?" Or like, "Are you
Right.
wasting your time entertaining these dumb people? Why are they watching you and sending you money over the internet?
Right.
You know, it's a
Yeah,
different
absolutely.
generation and different understanding, but they will definitely sort of look at what you're doing, and it really meant a lot to me when they had watched one of my episodes and they were like, "Wow, you're really good at this. They should be giving you money for this." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. They should." And
Right,
so
exactly.
that led me to, and of course, conversations with you lead me to go out and sort of seek opportunities.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And once you present yourself in such a way that you're brand friendly, and you have your kit, with your numbers and what you're setting out to do for that particular company or brand, if they have a certain threshold, they'll say it nicely, no, right?
Mhm.
But if they're looking for different voices and new voices, they'll give you, a key and an opportunity. So I think that we have to be out there. And for example, one of the conversations we were having earlier is I didn't request a dual sense edge controller. I want it,
Yeah.
but I didn't request it. Now, is it too late because of the rollout? It might be too late because of how things are rolling out for the controller right now, but I didn't request it, right? So it's that's on me. So it's an automatic no if I didn't request it. I should request it.
Yeah, come
So
on. You
you know
go
what I'm
for it. Why
saying?
not? What do you got to
Yeah.
lose, you know?
So right now it's an automatic no, because I don't know what the rollout is or whatever. But I think
Mhm.
a lot of that is because I've been so focused and just promoting, the book and sharing my story now, and some other projects that I'm considering, which we'll touch on later. It's just, yeah, it's just one of those things, just be nice, right? Be kind to human beings. Know that every PR person moves around, and it's a small circle with them, okay? And if you do something crazy, everybody knows before the day's over. That's just the way it works.
Absolutely. I've seen it happen. And
Yeah.
yeah, it happens quick. I mean, you break an embargo or you say something crazy to somebody and that very small community will just say, "Hey, that's not a guy to be worked with," or and yeah, you talk about this in the book about being brand friendly, and that is something so big to consider when you're
Yeah.
getting started. And that's why this book is such a good resource to someone that's just getting started. But it kind of works no matter where you're at in the journey. This can still be a resource that you come back to and take a look at, or you'll find some knowledge that you didn't already know. You may think you already know everything about podcasting and you've done a couple hundred episodes, but maybe Andrew here drops, one little gem in this book that you didn't know, and all of a sudden, you're out there researching and trying to figure it out. But yeah, going back to what I meant about being brand friendly, as I am hitting YouTube Partner this week and seeing like which videos are getting monetized and which ones are like, I don't know if this video was super brand friendly. You know, you start to consider how many f bombs are you going to drop,
Right.
how many slurs, which you shouldn't be doing any of that. But
Right.
the people that make content like that is built around that, or that have content that's built around adult themes and stuff like that, you really start looking through at what different companies, YouTube for example, what they consider appropriate, and you have to go through those check boxes for each video and sort of look and see, okay, does this have nudity? Does this have violence? Does it have, gratuitous language, going all through the list? And it's so much easier to be like, yeah, it doesn't have any of that because
Hmm.
you're already clean. And then boom, you start getting ad revenue.
Yeah. So think of all the top creators, if you want to say that,
Yeah.
and just think about their journey. They all had to adjust to be brand friendly, all of them.
Yeah.
Tim the Tat Man, Ninja, if that's your bag, right? They all had to adjust to be brand friendly, especially if you're coming on YouTube. You
Hmm.
can't. YouTube is not playing that game with anybody, right? So I think that I do believe YouTube is a great place to start, because it gives you so much structure. When you go anywhere else, you're already, well rounded and trained to just be dope and not do anything crazy. I think it trains you that way because of all the guidelines that they have. Now, if you just love breaking guidelines, and this segment of the podcast isn't for you. But it's just one of those things where YouTube makes sure that if they're going to put, advertisers on your videos, you have to present yourself in such a way that they're going to do that. And that's just the way it works.
Absolutely. Well, and the other thing is that YouTube trains you in a lot of ways, not just in being brand friendly, but I mean, it sort of trains you in the world of thumbnails, in the world of tags and descriptions and titles and fancy
Yep.
stuff like that. So when you jump to a new platform, whether it's for podcasting or whether it's TikTok, Instagram, all of these different things, you have this sort of formula of like, oh, this is the process I use when I make a YouTube video. So when I make a TikTok video, it's like, okay, well, all I got to do is change the aspect ratio and
Right.
make sure that video it looks good in vertical, and make sure the thumbnail looks cool, make sure there's the right tags in there that will draw the right people to the video, and watch it happen. So it trains
Yeah.
you in a lot of
So
ways.
absolutely, definitely in a lot of ways. So I want to mention this in here for the individuals that, so this is for you, individual that's still considering this thing. These AI tools are absolutely incredible,
Mm.
right? And I think we need to touch on that conversation so it doesn't feel, so archaic because, yeah, podcasting's been around for a long time. I don't feel like I need to do it or whatever. Well, whatever that bag is for whoever is going to be listening. These AI tools will help you write titles. They will help you write description, like the Chat GPT conversation that has, we've been having this conversation ever since post Thanksgiving, right? Where Google is considering their own version of something like that to bring to the market. Microsoft already invested in a company, OpenAI. And the reason I bring that to the table is that you don't necessarily have to do all of the copy that you used to do um, because these tools are available for you to use, right? So, for example, I can say something like, and ChatGPT, I'll say, write me an optimized YouTube title mentioning the word Destiny 2. Make sure, Destiny 2 is in the front of the title, not the rear of the title. Make sure it's under 100 characters. And it'll give me a couple of different titles. I can make it even seasonal. I can say something like, hey, it's Christmas time. So
Mm-hmm.
write me a title that mentions Destiny 2 and a Christmas like way. Make sure the tone is cheery, make it 100 characters, but Destiny 2 has to be in the front, right? And then it'll give me that. And then once it gives me that, I'll say, okay, so write an optimized description for that. It'll give me that. And I'll say write optimized tags for that. It'll give me that. Right. So the work of actually um I believe it's a help and not necessarily like a bad thing to have the ability to use these tools for your benefit. Write me a template, for requesting a review for the DualSense controller. It will write that. It'll give me the template, and then I just have to replace the things that don't apply. And then if it's too generic, I'll say, hey, add the fact that I've been recording YouTube videos for this long. I've been podcasting for that long. These are the links to my stuff, and then revise it to include these things, and it will write that, right? So if you're still holding out and not using these tools to benefit you, your business, your brand, or your freelance, whatever you're doing yourself a disservice. So I just want to throw that in there to make it more like super futuristic, right?
Okay. And just one thing I think maybe the holdouts might say is like, okay, well, what if they're what about the people that are obsessed with grammar? They're like, oh, well, now I'm gonna have to proof this. I'm gonna have to go through and check it. Like, it's more reliable for me to write it out myself because I know I'll get the grammar right. Whereas, if the robot gets it wrong and then I just fire that off, then it's
Okay.
I'm at
That's a
fault.
great point.
Yeah,
You have Grammarly and then you have other tools. There's even
yeah,
AI
those are
tools
great
for spell
tools.
checking. Pardon me?
Those are great tools. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They are amazing tools. So because of that, it's like, are you what's the real issue? Right? That's
What's the
that's the
real reason?
what's the real reason, right? Do you believe that there's only one car that can take you from point A to point B? It's only one brand that's the best brand, like no other company, or you know what I'm saying? Like, are you that guy? Are
There
you
you
that
go.
gal? Right? Are you though? Right?
There you
So I
go.
think I think that you just have to explore. I think it's a good thing to explore. These tools are amazing. I have benefited from these tools in so many ways. And I mean, who knows? You might see my book in Spanish because these tools are so amazing, right?
Yeah,
So I can help assist, another group of individuals who only understand Spanish, right?
absolutely. And in
So
our
so
hemisphere,
right,
that's a large portion of our country and
right.
this continent, really.
Right. And the thing is, like, sometimes, when you're bilingual, your proficiency may not be in the language that everybody thinks that it should be, because I think we make a lot of assumptions too, right?
Sure.
So you may look at the book and say, "Oh, wow, this is in Spanish. Oh, I'm down," right? Then you'll lean in to pick it up more than you would because it's in English. And I'm just thinking about those things, like, I want to be a little bit more open about other opportunities that not only serve me, right? I think that's important. It's really important for me. And there's other books that I'm considering. Um, Not necessarily. I don't want to put a time on it because I want it to be done well,
Yeah.
and I believe this one came out really good, which is why it's a bestseller. So I'm excited about that. But outside of that, I just want to do a lot of things that's going to serve like for years to come, right? Even if it's a darker, subject matter, I'm willing to consider it because I think those things are important.
Yeah. Well, one of the other things I want to talk about, and I don't think it was actually mentioned in the book, but it's something that sort of echoed in my mind as I was reading the book, and it's something you've probably said a long time ago that just kind of stuck with me. Um, the phrase that echoes in my mind is that you're really built for this, and you believe that you are like you're the best man for the job. Like in your mind, you're like,
Yep.
I'm the best there is. I'm good at this podcast. Like you have that mentality and you sort of have to believe that you're the best when you're doing stuff. Otherwise,
Right.
you go out there with your guitar on the stage. If you don't believe that you're the best one, either on the stage or that's ever played on the stage, you're going to have self-confidence issues. You're going to have all sorts of other problems. But it's not an ego thing, but it's like uh, the word
You have to
escapes
have
me.
it.
Yeah, you got
You
to have
have
the
to
it
have it.
factor, right?
You have to have it.
And so
And
you said that a long time ago, and I thought that sounds like super egotistic, but I
it
know that's
does.
not how he means it. Yeah, it's not how he means it, everyone. But
It
it
does.
it sounds that way. But I
It
mean, maybe
sounds
you can
that way.
reword it or explain it further
I
from what I've
can't
given you.
reword
But
it, and that's the
yeah,
thing. I'm great at what I do,
there it is.
right? That's it. That's it. And I do believe that anybody that has assisted this past 2+ weeks or whatever in sharing the tweets and stuff like that, they admit it too.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just me saying it, but you have to believe it, and you have to put the work in to, achieve the things that you're trying to achieve. But I'm good at what I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that being so obsessed about linguistics and tone and all those things, that I've gotten really good at it over the years, right? I could be in any circle. I could talk to anybody. I'm not necessarily, afraid to speak into any group or any conversation. I've attained a lot of information, knowledge from different types of things in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm able to have those conversations, or even, set myself up in a way where I'm asking questions about things that I don't understand, right? So it's not just, believing that you're great, is doing the work as well. So that's what it is. You're good at what you do, I'm good at what I do,
Yeah.
right? And some individuals will say, "Well, I don't believe that." Okay, that's fine. And that's fine. It could be a pushback, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you versus everybody else that has, either hung out with me, experienced my content, and whatever the subject matter is, if I don't understand, I'll just give it back to the person and be like, "Well, why did you ask that?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you more context to go from there, right? So I'm good at what I do. I really do believe that. I'm really good at it, right? And you and you need to believe that
Yeah.
because it does help you, push forward.
And if you don't believe him, just ask his friends.
Right. Just
Ask
just
his
ask just
business
ask the
partners,
homies.
everyone that was on Twitter that was sort of saying like, "Man, I'm so excited for this book. Look at what Andrew's done, all the knowledge and experience. He's been working at this for years, and then this book here is his chance to sort of give back and to share that knowledge."
Right. And so to be fair, there are dark times too, right? You're wondering if
Yeah.
what you're doing matters, right? So I definitely want to take that route as well. You wonder, is it making a difference? Like even the current project that is unannounced right now, I'm like, is it going to mean something to somebody? Is it going to and now it seems like it might, right, based on what I share with you, but I don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Not really, not
But
till you
it's
put it out there.
I right, exactly. I have no idea, but it's going to be out there for me to look back and say, hey, did I do enough, conversations around it? Did I share it with everybody? Did I make it in such a way where they want to, be a part of it and stuff like that? So I think those things I'm thinking about, like even what I shared with you earlier in terms of like what do they get if they do this or that or whatever,
Mhm.
that's even important to me, right? But I think the layout of the book coming out first was essential for that to even be available, right? So I think like, there are times I'm like, man, why is this not working? Podcast episodes, you do it and you're like, well, was that really good? Or, a video comes out and you think it's great and nobody watches it.
Yeah.
Or you feel like nobody's watching it now because YouTube, they'll serve it up later if they need to.
Mhm.
That's just the way it works. So yeah, so I have those moments. I have them too. I'm still trying to figure out different things for what my journey is going to look like the next couple of years. But what was definitely on the radar to be done was to write. I needed to write. I needed something that was going to be here for a very very long time. It's everywhere. It's on Barnes and Noble Press. It's on Google Play Books. It's on Amazon. It's on Kobo. It's everywhere. And that was intentional.
It's physical, it's digital, it's
It's
everywhere.
everywhere. It's
There's
everywhere.
no excuse
It's everywhere, man.
not to
There's
read
no
it, you know?
excuse. Yeah, I was thinking about making it exclusive on Amazon, but I'm like, ah, nah, because if I did that, I wouldn't be able to do the global audience with Kobo and Google Play Books. And Google Play
Yeah.
Books is only digital. So I had to wait. So the process with Google Play is you wait 7 days and then they approve it. But if you don't hear on the seventh day or the eighth day, you contact them. So I had to contact them and be like, hey, I'm just wondering what's the status. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, as nice as possible because I want the book to be out everywhere. So they were very nice and they were like, oh, okay, thank you for your patience. Here you go. The book is now live on Google Play Books. So you
Wow.
do what you got to do. Like the thing is like, and the other thing that I had to consider too, nobody cares about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I care, right? I care first.
Yeah.
You care about the podcast first. You care about Shackcast first. Nobody cares, right? Nobody cares what I have
Yeah.
as a microphone. Nobody cares what keyboard I use. Nobody cares what mixer I have. If I have any of those things, right? Nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to give me the content that it says that I'm going to get when I read your title, your podcast title or YouTube title? Nobody cares about me. They care about me later.
Mhm.
They care about me later, right? They don't care about me, right? They don't care about us content creators until we meet the need for them. And then
Yeah.
they'll come back, right? And I think that once you look at it that way, then you'll hopefully put out the best thing that you can every single time. And then as you build a community around that, then those individuals, the first 1,000 or whatever it is, or the first 333 individuals or whatever, will support, your journey. But you think about it over the years, man, 14 years in, put out a lot of content,
Yeah.
right? And what does that mean to somebody today? I don't know. I have no idea, man. I don't know. But they know who I am though, right?
Absolutely.
14 years in, right? And that could be ego, that call it what you want, but hey, I put the time in, right? And I think that these are the conversations that people don't want to have on podcasts or whatever, because it seems like, hey, you think you're what's it bigger than your bridges? I don't even know the sayings anymore. Whatever they
Yeah,
say,
some of
right?
those.
Some of those things, right? But 14, just think about where you were in 2009
Uh-huh.
and where you are now, and what did you do for your content journey? I'm just doing my journey,
Yeah.
and my journey at this point is I'm trying to be less selfish,
Ooh, okay.
right? I think that's where we are. I'm trying to be less selfish, and what's the best way to do that? Put out a piece of content or something to the masses that it reaches, a whole bunch of individuals, and yes, it's going to benefit me as well. But I waited 14 years to put out a book. I think that's too long. Is it? Just thinking out loud here. Maybe it's too long. Maybe it's just the right time.
Yeah.
But here we are.
It too soon and you wouldn't have all the experience.
Right.
Too late and you'd be dead. And then the
Correct.
knowledge would be locked up with you
Correct.
and no one would be able to share it.
Absolutely.
So it came out at just the right time, and hopefully it'll help lots of people. And I think that's what's great about it is it's not a book that wastes time talking about who you know and all the connections you got and how great you are.
Nah,
It
man.
really gets right into the meat and potatoes. It gets right into what you need to know. It's step by step. Each chapter, just sort of explains all the different things that Andrew thinks you need to be prepared for and all the things you need to do.
Yeah, like even taxes, we touch on taxes a little bit. We talk about, the disclosures for the FTC. We touched on that. We touched on music. We touched on, apps, of course. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I'm really, really proud of the way everything came out.
You should be, man.
Yeah, I really am proud of it, and I do believe that anybody who reads the book will get something out of it.
Mhm.
I do believe that, right? And even the title is like, who do you think you are? Like, what do you mean? What I should know? I know everything,
Yeah.
right? For those individuals, I
Who
think
are
you'll get
you
something.
to tell me what
Yeah,
I should know?
exactly,
Who is
exactly,
this guy? They turn
exactly.
over the book and look on the back. Andrew, who is this guy?
Right, right. So I think even those individuals, like, but podcasting, what you should know, I know everything. Okay, well,
Hmm.
just check it out. Check it out and see if that holds true, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. Well, I think I'm proud of you. I know your family is
Thank
proud
you,
of
man.
you. I know your
Appreciate
friends,
it.
your acquaintances, your business partners, everybody that's been, sharing your book around. I've seen all the comments that they've said, and you're getting your flowers right now. You're like Denzel at the Oscars, man.
I appreciate it, man. It's really beautiful to see. Like I've had people hit me up, for like I haven't spoken to them in years. Like we were supposed to connect, a
Yeah.
few years ago, and they're like, "Hey, congratulations" and stuff like that. It's been, you know, authoring is different. It's different. I hope that everybody gets to experience what I'm experiencing right now. Just from the standpoint of people don't know like what you really go through and a lot of different things, and I think that if you pen that to poems, or you create a self-help book, you create an ebook that summarizes a whole bunch of things that you've spent a lot of time learning about, just the amount of people that is going to come out of the woodwork and just be like, hey, wow, I didn't know this, then I
Yeah.
think it's a beautiful thing. I think everybody needs to experience that at least once.
They know you as the dorky kid from high school, and then all of a sudden they see Andrew Alliance, author,
Right.
content
Exactly.
creator, Logitech G partner.
Right, right. I do believe that, everyone needs to experience that. And I think for me at this point is like really think about what your even social media stuff, which we didn't necessarily touch on. Just think about what you're saying online too. Those things, people may take pictures of those things, try to bring them back to you later when you're, rolling out new things, in your business and your freelancing world and your job or whatever you're doing, right? I think that just be mindful of those things because, people are malicious, man. Like
Absolutely.
people are malicious, it's like, and I've experienced that on different platforms. People are behind the scenes just crafting different stories and different narratives just because they don't like you or you don't serve them anymore in any capacity. People are mean, man. So
Yeah.
so even that last year into this year I had to like adjust and really tighten up the circle because my focus is just I'm not going to be here forever.
Hmm.
That's where my focus is, and whatever I need to do to lose sleep. There's like even the project I'm working on now, there's days where, you know, it'll be Monday and then into Tuesday morning, sun is out, I'm still working on it,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I just my focus is different, man. I really want to leave something that people will enjoy, even if they look at it on a wall.
Mm-hmm. He's built different, folks. He's made for it. So
Yeah,
what?
man.
Let me ask you this, and this is the probably the toughest question I have for you. What does success look like to you?
Being in the fight, man.
Hey, wait, you wanna? Are you doing Creator Clash? Is that what's up?
Being in the fight, man. I think that's what it is for me right now. Baby steps. I was talking to someone yesterday. They were like, "Man, I'm trying to, shut off my brain, but there's so much to do." I said, "But yeah, but at the same time, just do things in spurts, right? Find a stopping point, celebrate that you did, what you did, right, and then go from there, right?" It's
Mm-hmm.
like as much as I want everything to be done with this next project, like yesterday, it's impossible because of how the project is being crafted, right? So yeah, being in the fight, man, being in the fight, conversations like this, I love because it gives me a chance to really think about like what's happening, in my mind, right? And I do appreciate you taking the time to reach out so we can have the conversation. But that's what it is for me. It's like I'm in the fight. I didn't give up, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I gave up at 300, if I gave up at 299, I would have never met Daniela.
Tragedy.
That's a tragedy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm telling you, man. She's a genius and she's a G, man. She like people don't really know. Like I've gotten a chance. I'm honored to be, hosting the show with her, man. Like she's dope, man. So I think like that's the thing. Like if I don't even bring this project out, and technically it's out, I just didn't announce it, right?
Right.
It's I don't know. I think it's something that I need to share with the world, right? It is something from my youth. It is something that's inspired from my youth. I'm inspired about what is going to, how people are going to feel about it, right, when they experience it, the project. So I think those things are like, yeah, I'm just excited, man. I'm just excited to put out some dope things, and it is a world that people aren't necessarily passionate about because they may have lost, but there is the technology, is still good, right? The technology is not going to go away because you don't like the industry. So I'm hyped for it.
Right. And so success is really being in the fight. It's not really about any one goal that you've done where it's like YouTube partner, 300 and something episodes, writing a book. Like these are all stepping stones along the way, and each one is a
Yeah.
major success to be celebrated. But
Hmm.
it's never you're never at the end on the mountaintop, and you're like, yes, I finally made it. I'm successful. There's nothing left.
Right. Right. And
It
I
won't
think
get
that
better.
right, right. And I think that just having somebody to share it with, because there was a time where a lot of the things that I was, going through and doing, there wasn't anybody I could say, "Hey, this is happening. This is what I'm excited about." And if you're doing it alone, just don't. Just don't do it alone, because it's tough. It's tough because it's like there's nobody you can share it with, right? And I think it's important to be able to share it with somebody as you're going through it, right? So it's like, okay, if you can do it, I can do it. That's a thing, right?
Yeah.
And you're inspiring somebody to do something for themselves. Even, starting a podcast. Oh man, Aaron has a podcast. He has a lot of episodes out. Man, I want to do a podcast too, right? And I think that we all inspire people, whether we're looking at, social media posts that people are doing things. Oh, that's dope. Oh man, they're hosting and doing commentary on a championship match of Street Fighter. Man, I would love to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it is if you want what they have, that's wrong,
Right.
right? But if you want to experience that for yourself in a capacity, that's different. But if you're like, man, I want his belongings, right? Our hurt belongings.
Yeah,
That
no.
is
That's
that is where it's
bad.
like, that's not cool.
Yeah.
That's not cool,
You
right?
gotta earn
But
the
if we're
right
like,
to be
man,
there. You gotta make your own podcast and then
right,
become the host of the Street Fighter Championships.
right. And I think that you just have to be mindful of that. You know, motive is extremely important, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, cool. You know, I know that this project is definitely different, and it's one that I want to have that checked off not only the box but the impact as well for the people that are going to enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. So, on that note, tell us what is next for you, your content, the world that you're in, the things that you're creating.
Yeah. So what's next? I'm definitely considering other manuscripts. You know, for just for impact. You know,
Hmm.
definitely for impact. The next one might be a darker tone, a darker theme, and I do believe it's something that we've all experienced in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's in a working, employer employee business environment, whether it's family, whether it's relationship. I think the next manuscript is definitely going to be a darker tone, and I'm going to be able to share my experiences with that as well at the top of the book for why I am talking about it. Why do I feel so passionate to talk about it? So that's been an obsession too.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. And the next thing that I'm working on right now, which I kind of paused last year because I wanted to think about the book, do the book, and then do this thing is an NFT project. I have an NFT project in the works. It is a art collection inspired by some of the greatest fighting games of all time, and I think that that's going to be valuable just as an art piece. But one of the things I want to do, and when I say just as an art piece, is like these things are worthy of being on a wall.
Yeah.
Every single piece is different. I think so far we have um, maybe 50 pieces by, okay, depending on when we're recording this, the 28th.
Hmm.
By early February, we'll have maybe over 80 pieces. So I'm slowly building the catalog for that, each with their own unique traits. And one of the things I want to do is because I really want the book in the hands of a lot of folks. So navigating that world, NFT world, is very interesting. And one of the things I wanted to do is transaction fees and gas fees and stuff like that. I didn't want that to be a lot, so I built that on Polygon, which is a very low to no cost transaction fees when the item is being purchased and then being moved to the wallet of the person that's purchasing it. I wanted those, cost of life, money. I wanted people to save money in that aspect. Every piece is a work of art, um, and I think that's an understatement. But I'll stop there. What did you think of what you saw? I'll stop there. I'll
Listen,
stop there.
there were some that I saw that I was just like, this is beautiful, or I was like, oh, I get what that makes me think of.
Right.
And yeah, I can vouch for what he says. Like it is like every single one. I could imagine it being on a wall in my house, in the game room or whatever, put up on and framed.
Yeah. 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 I'm glad you shared that, man, because I'm still nervous to like share it with like
No, you
friends,
should
and
be nervous, absolutely,
I'm
because
like,
until
hey,
it's out there, you don't know how it's gonna be received.
right. I'm like, hey, friend DA, can you just like look at this real quick and tell me what you think? And the response has been really good,
Hmm.
really, really great. I'm excited. I'm excited. And one of the things I wanted to do, just to finish the thought, is anybody who picks up an NFT, I want to give them the book. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that.
Absolutely.
So the book will be um, an unlockable for the individuals who own the NFT. And then the other thing too is like for future things, even with the new book, I can make that available for the individuals who are holders as well. So I'm thinking about things like that, right?
Hmm.
It's an incentive for them to fall in love with the piece, which I think they will, once they see the one that they like. but it's also an incentive for them to hold the project and maybe create like even gated conversations. Only if you have the NFT, you're going to be able to have those conversations, because it's going to give me a chance to open up and share a lot more in an environment, because I'm sacrificing um, sleep and all those things. And guess what? Nobody cares. I know, but I just have to say it, right? I'm sacrificing those things, right,
Yeah.
to build it, because I know it's going to be dope once it's announced. And I think that that's worth something, right?
Yeah.
And I hope that the response to it is is awesome. So so that's the main thing. So I'm working on that. I think I'm aiming for 333 pieces, which is a big undertaking, especially the way I have to put in the information. It is going to be something that's available on OpenSea, which is a place where you pick up NFTs. And as I mentioned earlier, it is on Polygon. It is not on Ethereum. So that means that the transaction fees, the gas fee is going to be low. And all the pieces, if I don't want to keep them, they don't make it to the collection. So if I look at it and like I want to keep it, then that means it's really good.
That's a high
Yeah,
standard, a high bar to
for sure.
pass.
For sure.
Wow. Well,
Yeah,
just to
man.
close out here on our final thoughts here, what is something you would say to someone that's new to podcasting, whether they've got a few episodes or they're just starting up their own show or they're thinking about it, and either they're looking at your book or if there's just some simple knowledge that you can sort of pass down, what's one thing that you would tell someone right now?
Yes, sure. Buy the book. Check it out for sure. Of course, I got to say that,
You
right?
gotta.
It's in the context of everything we talked about. And the other thing too is listen to other shows. Listen to other shows. Like really take a notepad and a pen and listen to, why do you listen to the show that you listen to? That's the question.
Hmm.
For the next couple of shows that you're going to listen, or whatever episode that you decide to tune in, why would you listen to that show versus another show? Is it the host? Is it the chemistry? Is it the format? Because some shows have like 6 minutes of ads in the front because they got to pay the bills. It is what it is, right? But the
Hmm.
thing is like so even if you're shunning all the commercials in the front, but yet you're building a podcast as well, when you get to the point that you have to add, pre-roll, mid-roll, and post-roll, you have a different, you know, a different view of that, right? So you may hate fast forwarding the 6 minutes, but if you end up getting those sponsorships and those ads in the front of your show, then your conversation tone, it always changes when it's you, right? So I
Yeah.
think that one of the things that I would highly recommend for anyone is to not only watch and listen to your stuff, definitely listen to other people's content and take notes. Be like, wow, I didn't know that the transition between that ad and the way they brought it in, and this tool set that they're using, that could really benefit me as well. So that's what I would recommend for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time, Andrew. Thank you for being here. And just let people know, where can they find you, where they can find your book and stuff like that. And we'll close out.
Absolutely. So you can find it on Amazon, Google Play, Books, Kobo, Barnes& and Noble Press. That is Podcasting What You Should Know. And on Twitter, you can find me at Uriah, which is spelled Uriyya. And I have a link tree there with all the other links as well. So that's it, man. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. And gamers, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We appreciate your support. Take care. Have a good one. And we'll see you on the next one.